I returned to my abandoned warehouse to demolish it, but what I found inside made my blood run cold. 3 small bodies huddled in the darkness, starving, dehydrated, left to die. I found out who locked them there, and tonight he's planning to get engaged to a billionaire's daughter. But not for long. I'm going to be there, and I'm going to expose that monster in front of 200 people. Thank you for stopping by. What made you click on this? The warehouse, the children, the monster getting away with it? Comment below. I read everyone. Quick note. This is a scripted narrative with fictional elements, but the deeper meaning about family choices and living with no regrets, that's worth holding on to. I sat in my corner office at Horizon Trade Group headquarters staring at blueprints that should have excited me. $45 million. A state-of-the-art logistics center rising from an old warehouse in South Boston. Numbers that once made my pulse quicken, now felt empty. Mr. Armstrong. Christopher Hayes knocked before entering. 20 years as my assistant, and he still treated my door like sacred ground. The demolition team needs final approval. They're scheduled to break ground at 6 tomorrow morning. I didn't look up from the satellite image on my screen. The warehouse sat like a gray wound in the Seaport district, surrounded by Tesla dealerships and yoga studios that had swallowed the old neighborhood whole. What did Ethan say when you called? Christopher shifted his weight. I'd seen that move 1,000 times. It meant trouble. Mr. Dalton assured me the property is completely clear, sir. He supervised the final walkthrough himself last week. Ethan, my son-in-law, the man who married my Isabel and stayed for a trust fund that never came. Assured you. I met his eyes. Those exact words. He said Christopher cleared his throat. Tell Nick the warehouse is empty as my conscience. Then he laughed. The words landed wrong. Ethan's jokes always had edges sharp enough to cut. I'm going there myself. Tonight. Sir, the inspection team already... I don't trust inspection teams. I trust my own eyes. Christopher knew better than to argue when I used that voice. He'd heard it in boardrooms across 3 continents right before I killed deals everyone thought were done. I'll drive you then. No. Stay here. Handle the Singapore call if it comes in early. I grabbed my coat off the rack, Tom Ford charcoal gray. Isabel bought it for me 3 Christmases ago. The last one. I'll be back by 11. The elevator dropped 45 floors, and somewhere around the 30th, her voice came back. Sharp. Hurt. The way it sounded that last time in my office. Dad, one day you'll regret putting business before family. She'd come to invite me to something. Samuel's soccer game, Matthew's school play. The details had dissolved like sugar in rain, leaving only the bitter residue of my answer. I'm building something that will outlast me, Isabel. Something that will take care of you and the boys long after I'm gone. We don't need an empire, Dad. We need you. But I hadn't listened. Armstrong men didn't listen. We built. We conquered. We didn't break. 3 weeks later, she was dead. Route 93 late at night, coming home from somewhere I never asked about because I was in Tokyo closing a deal worth 8 figures. The Mercedes started smooth. German engineering. I pointed it toward South Boston, toward a warehouse I'd bought 20 years ago and forgotten about until some junior analyst flagged it on a quarterly report. The drive took 40 minutes through light traffic. Boston at night belonged to college kids and tourists, not to men like me, who'd made their fortunes before the internet turned every kid with a MacBook into a startup genius. My phone lit up on the dash. A text from Ethan I'd missed during the board meeting. Boys are doing great pizza night. Check it out. The photo showed 3 faces. Samuel, 12, already taller than his mother had been. Matthew, 9, with that crooked grin that was pure Isabel. and Jackson 7 holding up a slice of pepperoni pizza like he'd just won the lottery. They looked happy, safe, fine. I hadn't seen them in 6 months. Not since the funeral where I stood in the back of the church because I couldn't bear to sit up front where everyone could watch me not crying. Armstrong men didn't cry. We endured. I'd told myself I was giving them space to grieve. Told myself they needed time without their grandfather hovering over every meal, every homework assignment, every scraped knee. Lies taste different at 3 in the morning when sleep won't come. The truth was simpler and uglier. I was running. From the guilt. From the living proof that I'd chosen conference calls over school plays, profit margins over bedtime stories, my empire over my family. Isabel had been right, and I'd been too goddamn proud to admit it until they were lowering her into the ground. The GPS cut through my thoughts. Exit in half a mile. South Boston, Seaport District. The warehouse crouched between luxury condos like something dying that refused to fall. Brick walls covered in graffiti, windows black and hollow. The chain-link fence I'd installed years ago sagged like an old man's spine. I parked the Mercedes on the gravel lot. My shoes, Italian leather worth more than most people's car payments, crunched on broken glass and pebbles. The harbor wind carried salt and diesel fumes, and something else underneath. Something rotting. The door should have been locked with the combination padlock I'd ordered last year. Basic security, Home Depot special. This wasn't that lock. This was industrial grade, hardened steel. The kind you see on government facilities or pharmaceutical warehouses. The kind that costs $300 and comes with keys you can't duplicate at the hardware store. I pulled out my phone. The flashlight beam caught the mechanism. Brand new. No rust. No scratches. Installed in the last week, maybe the last few days. My pulse kicked up. Why would an empty warehouse need a lock like this? Ethan's voice crawled through my memory, empty as my conscience. And for the first time in 40 years of reading people, reading markets, reading the spaces between what people said and what they meant, I felt something cold settle in my chest. Fear. The bolt cutters felt cold in Christopher's hands. Heavy duty. The kind you use when you mean business. Boss, this is a $300 lock. Minimum. I knew. That's what scared me. The metal shrieked. Once. Twice. On the third cut, the lock gave up its secrets and clattered to the concrete. Christopher pulled the door open. Rusty hinges screamed into the night. My flashlight swept the darkness inside. 3 shapes huddled in the far corner. Small shapes. Children. Oh, God. The words fell out of me. Oh, my God. I ran. 50 years of business lunches and leather chairs couldn't stop me. My Tom Ford coat caught on something sharp. I didn't care. The smell hit me before I reached them. Urine, sweat, fear, and underneath it all, something impossibly faint that made my chest collapse. Chanel No. 5. Isabel's perfume. The oldest boy looked up. Hollow eyes and a skull-thin face. His right arm was wrapped in torn fabric dark with dried blood. I could see his ribs, individual ribs, like tent poles under paper-thin skin. Samuel. My voice cracked. He blinked. Slow, like thinking took effort. Mom said... His lips were cracked, bleeding. Mom said if anything happened to her, find Grandpa, you'd protect us. The flashlight shook in my hand. Behind Samuel, a smaller boy clutched the smallest one. Both were barely conscious. The middle child's lips moved, whispering something rhythmic. A song. Hush, little baby, don't say a word. Matthew, 9 years old, still singing his baby brother to sleep. I dropped to my knees. The concrete was cold, wet. I didn't care. Matthew, buddy, it's okay. It's Grandpa. His eyes opened, unfocused. Dad said, Grandpa stopped loving us. The words hit harder than any boardroom betrayal. No. I pulled him close. He weighed nothing. A bag of bones in a Pokemon t-shirt 3 sizes too big. No, that's not true. That was never true. Are you real? Matthew whispered against my shoulder. I'm real, buddy. I'm here. I'm so sorry I'm here. The smallest boy, Jackson, stirred. 7 years old. He clutched something to his chest. A teddy bear. Brown. Worn. One eye missing. It smelled like mold and something else. Like Isabel. That bear had been hers. I'd bought it for her 40th birthday as a joke. For your future grandkids, I'd said. We'd laughed. Now I wanted to scream. Jackson's eyes opened. He looked at me with that terrible wisdom that children shouldn't have. The knowledge that adults lie. That promises break. That love disappears. Will you leave us too? 4 words. They destroyed me. I'd cried twice in 65 years. Once when my father died. Once when Isabel's casket went into the ground. Armstrong men didn't cry. We endured. We conquered. We built empires. The 3rd time was now. Never. I gathered Jackson into my arms. He was lighter than my briefcase. Lighter than my laptop. Lighter than the guilt that would live in me forever. So you're safe now. All of you. I promise. Christopher. My voice sounded foreign. Raw. Call 911 now. 3 children. Severe dehydration. Tell them, already dialing boss. Samuel grabbed my sleeve. His grip was weak. Desperate. Grandpa, we tried to get out. I tried to break the door. I tried so hard. But Dad, he said we'd get pizza when he came back. He said 2 hours. That was... His voice faded. What day is it? Thursday night. He locked us in Tuesday morning. 2 days, 48 hours, in this darkness, in this cold, in this fear. I felt something break inside me, something I thought I'd already broken when Isabel died. Did he bring food, water? Samuel pointed. His hand shook. In the corner, barely visible, one small plastic bag. Inside a half-eaten sandwich green with mold. An empty water bottle. Nothing else. He said we needed to learn respect. Behind me, Christopher's voice. Ambulance is 6 minutes out. Boss, I found something. He held up a small device. Black plastic. LED lights blinking red. Security camera, motion activated, it's been recording. The warehouse spun. My mind calculated angles, timestamps, evidence. All the pieces fell into place with the precision of a billion-dollar deal closing. Except this wasn't a deal. This was murder. Attempted murder. My son-in-law locked my grandsons in an empty warehouse with moldy bread and no water. He promised them pizza and left them to die. And tomorrow night, less than 24 hours from now, he was marrying into one of the richest families in New England. I looked down at Jackson in my arms. His breathing was shallow. His lips were blue. He weighed maybe 40 pounds. Did Dad do this because of Natalie? Samuel whispered. The name hit me like ice water. Natalie Kingsley, Westbrook Equity Holdings, 40 million in cash and 5% equity. The perfect trophy wife for a man willing to erase his past. No, I said. My voice was steel now. The tears were gone. What replaced them was colder, sharper, more dangerous than any boardroom predator. He did this because he's a monster, but monsters can be stopped. Red and blue lights strobed through the broken windows. Sirens screamed toward us. Christopher ran to guide them in. I held my grandsons, all 3 of them. The boys Isabel died protecting. The boys I'd failed for 2 years. The boys who almost died because I was too busy counting money to count what mattered. "I've got you," I whispered into Jackson's hair. "I've got you now, and I'm never letting go." Outside, the paramedics shouted coordinates. Inside, I made a promise to 3 children and 1 ghost. This was war now, and Ethan Dalton was about to learn what happens when you corner a grandfather with nothing left to lose. The sirens died at 8:23 p.m. I didn't look away from my grandsons, not for a second. 2 paramedics burst through the warehouse door, a woman with gray streaks in her ponytail and a younger man carrying equipment. They moved with the efficiency of people who'd seen worse. But when the woman's flashlight hit Samuel's face, she stopped. "Jesus Christ." She dropped to her knees. "How long have they been here?" 2 days. My voice sounded like gravel. "No food. No water." The male paramedic was already pulling out an IV kit. "We need transport. Now. Brigham and Women's." They worked fast. IV lines, oxygen masks, thermal blankets. Jackson whimpered when the needle went in. I held his free hand. "You're doing great, buddy. So brave." Samuel's eyes tracked me. "Grandpa, don't leave. I'm riding with you. All of you." The ambulance interior was too bright. Too much like the last time I'd ridden in one of these 2 years ago following Isabel's body. Same hospital. Same terrible fluorescent lights. Same smell of antiseptic trying to mask something worse. But this time the patients were alive. The female paramedic Martinez checked Samuel's vitals. "Severe dehydration, malnutrition. This wound is infected." "What happened?" "His father happened. I couldn't keep the venom out. His father locked them in that warehouse and walked away." Martinez's jaw tightened. "We'll need to report this." "Already involved. FBI's on standby." The ambulance swayed through a turn. Jackson's hand squeezed mine. "Grandpa, I'm here. Are we going where Mommy went?" My throat closed. "Yes, buddy, but you're going to be okay, I promise." Brigham and Women's Emergency Department, 8:40 p.m. The ER physician was a woman in her 40s with tired eyes and steady hands. Dr. Rebecca Walsh. She took one look at the boys and started barking orders. "Room 3, get me 3 liters of saline, CBC-CMP blood cultures. Call pediatrics." Dr. Walsh pulled off her gloves. "Mr. Armstrong." "Yes." "They're going to be okay, but—" She paused. Her expression hardened. "Another 12 hours, we might have lost them, all 3. 12 hours. I'd almost been 12 hours too late." My knees went weak. I braced myself against the wall. Everything I'd built, the empire, the reputation, the carefully constructed armor, it all meant nothing. "Can I see them?" "Not yet. We're getting them stabilized." I walked to the waiting area, collapsed into a plastic chair. Christopher sat beside me, silent. I pulled out my phone, dialed Ethan's number, straight to voicemail. I called again, voicemail, again, voicemail. On the 4th attempt, I left a message. My voice was steady, too steady. "Ethan, it's Nick. Call me back. Tonight. It's about the boys." I hung up. "He's not going to call," Christopher said quietly. "I know. Boss?" Christopher pulled out his laptop. I checked the camera's memory card. There's footage from 2 days ago. My hands were shaking. I forced them still. "Show me." He opened the file. 10 seconds of preview. The timestamp read Tuesday, 7:42 a.m. The camera angle showed the warehouse door from inside. Clear, unmistakable. Ethan walked into frame. Confident, casual, wearing the same leather jacket I'd bought him for Christmas 3 years ago. Behind him, 3 small figures. Samuel holding Matthew's hand. Matthew holding Jackson's. "Dad, where are we going?" Samuel's voice tinny through the laptop speakers. Just need you boys to wait here for a bit. I've got a surprise coming. Pizza. Your favorite. How long? That was Matthew. Couple hours, maybe 3. Be good, okay? Then Ethan stepped out, pulled the door closed. The industrial lock clicked into place. Through the narrow window, I could see him test the handle, satisfied. Then he walked away. The boys stood there, confused. Then Samuel tried the door. Pulled, pushed, pounded. The preview ended. I sat there, staring at the frozen image of my grandsons trapped in darkness. "There's 4 minutes total," Christopher said. His voice was careful, including audio of the boys calling for help, calling for their mother, and... He stopped. "And what?" "Calling for you, boss. Samuel tells his brothers that Grandpa will come, that you promised to protect them." The waiting room went silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights. "Upload it," I said. "Secure cloud, multiple backups. Send a copy to Edward Bennett and Agent Grant." "Already done, sir." My phone buzzed. I grabbed it. Instagram notification. I opened it. Ethan's account. Posted 30 minutes ago. The photo showed him in a tuxedo. Perfect hair, perfect smile. Champagne flute raised to the camera. Behind him, the ornate molding of a luxury hotel suite. The caption, "Getting ready for the biggest night of my life. Engaged living my best life." Location tag, the Liberty Hotel, Boston. Below 247 likes. Dozens of comments. "Congrats. So happy for you. You deserve it." I stared at that smile, that champagne, that casual joy, while his sons were dying 3 miles away. "Boss?" Christopher's voice pulled me back. I looked up. My face must have shown something terrible because Christopher actually leaned back. "Tomorrow night," I said. My voice was ice. "Ethan Dalton stands in front of 200 guests, in front of the Westbrook family, in front of everyone who matters in Boston high society." "Yes, sir. And I'm going to make sure every single person in that ballroom sees exactly who he is." Dr. Walsh appeared in the hallway. "Mr. Armstrong, the boys are stable. You can see them now." I stood, straightened my coat. The same coat that had caught on rusty metal an hour ago. There was a tear in the sleeve. I didn't care. "Christopher, first thing tomorrow, I want Edward Bennett on the phone, and I want Agent Grant ready to move. When I give the signal, Ethan Dalton's perfect life ends." "Understood, boss." I walked toward the room where my grandsons were sleeping, safe, alive, because I'd gotten there in time, barely in time. Tomorrow, Ethan Dalton would learn what happens when you try to erase the children of a woman I loved more than anything in this world. Tomorrow at the Liberty Hotel, 200 people would witness the end of a monster's fairy tale. And I'd make sure the cameras captured every second. I sat alone in the hospital corridor at midnight. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting everything in that terrible bluish-white glow that makes living people look half dead. The silence was so complete I could hear my own heartbeat. Down the hall, my grandsons were sleeping. Safe. Stable. Words I'd almost lost the right to say. I leaned back against the cold wall and closed my eyes. And Isabel was there. 2 years and 3 months ago. My office on the 45th floor of Horizon Trade Group headquarters. The mahogany desk that cost more than most people's cars. The view of Boston Harbor that I'd stopped noticing years ago. The door opened. Isabel walked in wearing a blue dress. Simple. Elegant. But I could see the exhaustion in her face. The way her shoulders sagged. "Dad, the boys miss you. When was the last time you visited them? I was signing contracts with Singapore. $3.7 million in logistics agreements spread across my desk. I didn't look up. I'm swamped, sweetheart. Next month, I promise. You said that last month, and the month before that. My pen stopped. I looked up, saw the hurt in her eyes, the disappointment, but I was already irritated, already defensive. When you build a $3.2 billion empire, you'll understand what priorities mean. The words came out harsher than I'd intended, colder. Isabel's eyes filled with tears. She stood there for a moment, and I thought she might say something else, might push back. But instead, she just looked at me with this expression I couldn't read at the time. Now I know what it was. Pity. Dad, one day you're going to regret putting business before family. She turned and walked out. Her heels clicked on the marble floor. The door closed with a soft click. I went back to signing papers. That was the last time I saw my daughter alive. 3 weeks later, she was dead. Car accident on Route 2. Killed instantly, the police said, as if that made it better. As if instantly meant she didn't have time to think about her father, who was too busy to visit his grandchildren, who was too busy to tell her he loved her. I opened my eyes. The hospital corridor swam back into focus. She was right, I whispered to no one. I do regret it. Mr. Armstrong. I looked up. A woman stood at the end of the hallway. Older, maybe 68. White hair pulled back in a bun. She wore a cardigan that had seen better days and sensible shoes that squeaked on the linoleum. She was crying. Mr. Armstrong, thank God. Thank God you found them. I stood. Recognition hit me like a wave. Ruth Morgan, the woman who'd taken care of Isabel from the time she was 5 years old, who'd taught her to make cookies and braid her hair and all the things I'd been too busy to do, who'd loved my daughter like she was her own. She rushed forward, grabbed my hands. Her grip was surprisingly strong. I tried to warn you. I called so many times. I left messages. Christopher stood up from where he'd been sitting. His face had gone pale. Boss, He swallowed hard. I blocked her number 3 months ago. I thought it was a scam. She kept calling about the boys, about Ethan, and I thought, he looked like he might be sick. I should have been angry, should have fired him on the spot. But I was too tired, too broken. And Christopher's mistake had been born from loyalty, not malice. Tell me everything, I said to Ruth. She collapsed into the chair next to mine, pulled a tissue from her pocket, wiped her eyes. Ethan fired me the week after Isabel died, said the family didn't need help anymore, said I was too expensive, but I knew the real reason. She looked at me. He didn't want anyone around who knew the truth. What truth? That he never loved her, that he married her for the Armstrong name, for the connections, for the money he thought he'd inherit. Ruth's voice shook. I saw how he treated those boys after Isabel was gone. Cold, distant, like they were burdens. I tried to call you, over and over, but no one answered. Christopher made a sound like a wounded animal. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. Ruth reached into her purse, pulled out an envelope. Old, the paper yellowed with age. My name was written on the front in Isabel's handwriting. My heart stopped. Isabel gave this to me 3 days before she died, Ruth said quietly. She made me promise. She said, Ruth, if anything happens to me, give this to Dad. Make sure he reads it. Make sure he knows. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely take the envelope. Knows what? The truth about Ethan, the truth about everything. I stared at that envelope, at my daughter's handwriting, the loops and curves I'd recognize anywhere. I'd gotten birthday cards in that handwriting, Father's Day cards, Christmas cards, all of them sitting in a box somewhere in my penthouse, because I'd been too busy to frame them, too busy to appreciate them, too busy to tell her they mattered. Christopher leaned forward. "Boss, do you want me to—" "No." My voice was barely a whisper. "I need to do this alone." But I couldn't open it. Not yet. Because once I opened it, everything would change. Whatever Isabel had written in those last 3 days of her life, whatever truth she'd wanted me to know, it would destroy me. Or it would save me. Ruth put her hand on mine. Gentle, motherly. "She loved you, Mr. Armstrong. No matter what happened between you, no matter how many visits you missed or promises you broke, she loved you, and she wanted you to protect those boys." I nodded, couldn't speak. Ruth stood. "I should go. But Mr. Armstrong, those boys need you now. Don't make the same mistakes twice." She walked away, her shoes squeaking on the floor, the sound echoing in the empty corridor. I sat there holding that envelope. Christopher sat next to me, silent, waiting. Finally, I slid my finger under the seal. The old glue gave way easily. Inside was a single sheet of paper, folded once. I opened it. Isabel's handwriting filled the page. Neat, careful, like she'd taken her time. Like she'd known how important these words would be. The first line hit me like a bullet. "Dad, if you're reading this, it means something has happened to me." My hands started shaking so badly I almost dropped the letter. Christopher reached out to steady me, but I waved him off. I had to read this. I had to know what my daughter wanted to tell me in her final days. I had to know what truth she'd been too afraid to tell me in person. I read the letter under the fluorescent lights. Every word was a knife to the heart. "Dad, if you're reading this, it means something has happened to me. I need you to know the truth about Ethan. The truth I was too scared to tell you while I was alive. Ethan didn't marry me because he loved me. He married me to get close to your money, to the Armstrong name. When you refused to make him vice president of Horizon Trade Group, everything changed. He became cold, distant, angry. I found out he's been gambling, Dad. Poker games with people who don't forgive debts. He owes money to dangerous men. Last week I found a life insurance policy in his office. $5 million. With me as the beneficiary. Purchased 6 months ago. He never told me about it. Dad, I'm scared. I think about leaving, but the boys need their father. They love him. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just being paranoid. But if I'm not wrong, if something happens to me, please protect Samuel, Matthew, and Jackson. Don't let him near them. Don't let him hurt them. Promise me, Dad. Promise me you'll keep them safe. I love you. I'm sorry we fought. I'm sorry I said those things about priorities. But if you're reading this, maybe it's not too late. Maybe you can still save them. Please, Dad, save my boys. Love always, Isabel." The letter blurred. My tears were falling on the ink, smudging her words. Ruth's hand landed on my shoulder. "That accident," she whispered. "The police said she lost control on Route 2. But Isabel was the most careful driver I knew. She never took risks, especially not with the boys in the car." I looked up at her. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I never believed it was an accident." Ruth's voice was steel now, and after reading that letter, I believe it even less. The pieces fell into place, each one sharp and terrible and undeniable. The life insurance policy, $5 million, purchased 6 months before Isabel died. The gambling debts, the desperate need for money. The perfect accident on a road Isabel drove every day. And now, 2 years later, the children locked in a warehouse to die. The engagement to Natalie Kingsley. The $40 million and 5% equity. Ethan Dalton had killed my daughter, and he'd tried to kill her children so he could start fresh with a new, richer wife. He murdered her. My voice sounded hollow. He murdered Isabel, and now he's trying to erase every trace of her. Ruth nodded. Silent tears streamed down her face. I stood up, folded the letter carefully, put it back in the envelope. My hands were steady now. Something cold and hard had settled in my chest, something that felt like purpose. Christopher. He stepped forward. Yes, boss. Call Edward Bennett. I don't care that it's 2 a.m. Get him here. Now. Christopher pulled out his phone, started dialing. And call Agent Patrick Grant. Tell him I have evidence of attempted murder. Tell him I need him here within the hour. On it. I walked to the window. Boston was still dark. In 16 hours, the sun would set on Ethan Dalton's engagement party. 200 guests, champagne, music, a celebration of love, except there would be no celebration, only justice. 2 hours later, 200 a.m., Edward Bennett arrived. Suit despite the hour, gray hair perfectly combed. Nick. He shook my hand. Christopher said it was urgent. It is. 3 hours later, 3 a.m. Agent Patrick Grant walked through the hospital doors. FBI, specialist in crimes against children. We gathered in an empty conference room. Christopher set up his laptop. Edward spread legal documents across the table. Agent Grant sat with his arms folded listening. I showed them everything. The 4-minute video of Ethan locking the boys in the warehouse. The medical records showing severe dehydration and malnutrition. Isabel's letter with its terrible predictions. Agent Grant watched the video twice. His jaw got tighter each time. This is solid, he said finally. We can arrest him right now, tonight. No. The word came out hard. Tomorrow night. The engagement party at the Liberty Hotel. 200 guests, including Howard Westbrook, the man about to hand Ethan $40 million and 5% of his company. Edward leaned forward. Nick, what are you planning? I want everyone to see who Ethan Dalton really is before the handcuffs go on. I want Howard Westbrook to know he almost married his daughter to a murderer. I want every person in that ballroom to witness the truth. Agent Grant studied me. You want to expose him publicly. I want to destroy him publicly. I met his gaze. Can you do that? Can you wait until tomorrow night? My team can be positioned outside the hotel. The moment you give the signal, we move in. Good. I turned to Christopher. Can you get the video onto a projector? Something big enough for 200 people to see clearly. Already on it, boss. I'll have it ready by 6 p.m. tomorrow. Edward cleared his throat. Nick, there's also the matter of custody. Ethan is still their legal father. Even if he's arrested, there will be questions about guardianship. I want emergency custody, tonight. Can you file the paperwork? With this evidence, yes. A judge will grant it by morning. Agent Grant stood. Mr. Armstrong, I've been doing this job for 20 years. I've seen a lot of bad people do terrible things to children, but this... He gestured to the laptop screen. This is evil, and I'll be damned if I let him walk free. He shook my hand. Left to coordinate with his team. Edward started packing up his documents. I'll have the custody papers filed within 2 hours. You'll have legal guardianship by sunrise. Thank you, Edward. He paused at the door. Isabel would be proud of you, Nick. The words hit harder than they should have. I nodded, couldn't speak. Christopher and I sat alone in the conference room. The clock on the wall read 5:30 a.m. Through the window, I could see the sky starting to lighten. Boss, Christopher said quietly. You sure about this waiting until tomorrow night? I looked at Isabel's letter on the table. At the video paused on Christopher's laptop. "I've made a lot of mistakes in my life," I said. "Missed birthdays, broken promises, chose boardrooms over bedrooms, but I won't make another one. Not with them, not anymore." Christopher nodded. "What do you need me to do? Get some sleep. Tomorrow's going to be a long day." I stood. Tomorrow night, Ethan Dalton stands in front of everyone he's been lying to, and I'm going to make sure they all see the truth. I picked up Isabel's letter, held it against my chest. And then I'm going to do what I should have done 2 years ago. I'm going to protect my family. I slept for 2 hours in a hospital chair. At 8 a.m., I woke up with a stiff neck and exhaustion in my bones. The bathroom mirror showed me what guilt looks like. Swollen eyes, gray stubble, lines carved deep around my mouth. I looked 10 years older than 65. "This is what failure looks like," I whispered to my reflection. I splashed cold water on my face. It didn't help. Down the hall room, 347. I pushed the door open quietly. The boys were sleeping, sedated. Their bodies needed rest. Samuel's face was still too thin, his right arm wrapped in clean white bandages. But the IV drip was working. Color was coming back to his cheeks. Matthew slept, curled around Jackson, protective even in unconsciousness. Jackson clutched that bear, the one that used to be Isabel's. His thumb was in his mouth. 7 years old and sucking his thumb because his father had tried to kill him. Ruth sat in the corner. She hadn't left. "Go home, Ruth. Get some rest." She shook her head. "Not until you come back. Not until I know they're safe." I walked to Samuel's bedside, touched his forehead gently. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there. But I'm here now, and I'm not leaving. Not ever again." Matthew stirred, his eyes fluttered open. "Grandpa, I'm here, buddy." "You're really here." "I'm really here." He closed his eyes, went back to sleep, but his hand reached out and found mine, held on. I stayed until noon. My penthouse was 30 minutes away. High-rise in Back Bay. Floor-to-ceiling windows with a view of the Charles River. I showered, shaved. The razor scraped away yesterday's stubble. My closet held 50 suits. I chose the navy Armani, the one Isabel had picked out for me 5 Christmases ago. "Wear this one, Dad. Navy makes you look distinguished." I'd worn it to her funeral. Now I'd wear it to her justice. The red tie was silk, Isabel's favorite color. I knotted it carefully. "This is for you, sweetheart." My phone buzzed. Christopher. "Agent Grant and his team are positioned. They'll be ready at 6 p.m. "Good." Edward filed the emergency custody paperwork this morning. Judge signed off an hour ago. "The boys are legally yours now, boss." I closed my eyes, felt something loosen in my chest. "Thank you, Christopher." At 2 p.m. I met Edward at his office. More paperwork, more signatures. "Nick, this is just emergency custody," Edward said. "There will be a full hearing, evaluations." "I don't care." I signed my name, hard enough to tear the paper. "Those boys are mine to protect, and no court is taking them away from me." Edward nodded. "I'll make sure they don't." Back to the hospital at 4 p.m. The boys were awake now. Eating ice cream. Real food would come later, the doctors said. Samuel looked up when I walked in. "Grandpa, you're wearing a suit." "I have to go somewhere tonight. Something important." "Are you coming back?" The question broke me, the fact that he even had to ask. "Yes, I'm coming back. And when I do, we're going to talk about where you boys are going to live. Because it's with me, if you want to." Matthew's eyes went wide. "Really? Really?" Jackson climbed off the bed, walked over, hugged my leg. I want to live with you, Grandpa. I knelt down, hugged him back. Then that's exactly what's going to happen. At 6 p.m., I kissed each boy on the forehead, told them I loved them, told them I'd be back soon. Then I walked out. Christopher was waiting in the Mercedes, engine running. Ready, boss? Not yet. I need to see something first. He handed me his laptop. The video was already loaded. 4 minutes. I'd only watched the 10-second preview before. Now I needed to see everything. The timestamp, Tuesday, 7:42 a.m. Ethan opened the warehouse door. Come on, boys. I've got a surprise for you. Samuel, Matthew, and Jackson walked in, confused but trusting. Where are we, Dad? Samuel asked. Just an old place. Thought you boys might like to explore. I'll be back in a couple hours with pizza, pepperoni, and extra cheese. Can we come with you? Matthew asked. No, buddy. You wait here. It'll be an adventure. Then Ethan stepped out, pulled the door closed. The industrial lock clicked. Through the window, I watched him test the handle, watched him smile, watched him check his watch. Then he walked away. Inside, the boys realized they were trapped. Samuel ran to the door, pounded with his small fists. Dad, let us out. Matthew started crying. I'm scared. Jackson just stood there, silent, holding his bear. Dad will come back, Samuel said. He promised. But the video kept running, and Ethan didn't come back. I watched all 4 minutes. Watched my grandsons go from confused to terrified. Watched Samuel's brave face crumble. Watched Matthew sing lullabies to Jackson. Watched Jackson curl up in the corner. The video ended. I closed the laptop. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from rage. Drive. Christopher pulled out, headed toward Beacon Hill, toward the Liberty Hotel. Are you ready? He asked. I've never been more ready for anything in my life. We arrived at 7 p.m. The Liberty Hotel stood like a cathedral. Luxury cars lined the circular drive. Women in evening gowns, men in tuxedos. Everyone dressed for a celebration. I stepped out of the Mercedes, straightened my tie, buttoned my jacket. Christopher came around with the laptop. Everything's loaded. The projector's set up inside. I'll be in the AV booth. Good. Boss. He met my eyes. Isabel would be proud. I nodded, couldn't speak. Then I walked toward the entrance, toward the ballroom where Ethan Dalton stood smiling, thinking he'd won. He had no idea his world was about to end. Let's finish this. I stepped into the Liberty Hotel lobby. Vaulted ceilings, crystal chandeliers, cold marble floors that echoed with every footstep. This building used to be a jail, Charles Street Jail, built in 1851. They'd converted it into luxury in 2007, stripped away the cells and replaced them with 5-star rooms, erased the suffering and painted over it with wealth. How fitting. Christopher walked beside me, the laptop under his arm like a briefcase, like we were here for business, which I suppose we were. The lobby was full. Women in evening gowns that cost more than most people's monthly rent. Men in tuxedos that fit too perfectly to be rented. Everyone checking in. Everyone heading toward the ballroom on the second floor. Everyone here to celebrate love. I walked to the security desk, showed my ID. I need to speak with Howard Westbrook, immediately. Tell him it's about his daughter's fiancé. The security guard, young, maybe 25, picked up his radio. Boy, sir, I'll need to verify. Tell him Nick Armstrong is here. Tell him it's urgent. Tell him it's about Ethan Dalton. Something in my voice made him stop arguing. He spoke into the radio, listened, then nodded. Mr. Westbrook will meet you in the private lounge. Third door on the left. Thank you. Christopher and I walked down the corridor, past photos of the old jail, iron bars, cell blocks, prisoners staring at the camera with dead eyes. I wondered if Ethan would have that same look in a few hours. The private lounge was small, leather chairs, a wet bar, windows overlooking Charles Street. Howard Westbrook walked in 2 minutes later, 60 years old, silver hair, a suit that probably cost $10,000. The kind of man who'd built an $8.9 billion private equity firm from nothing. The kind of man who recognized power when he saw it. And right now, he saw it in me. Nick Armstrong. He extended his hand. This is unexpected. I didn't realize you'd been invited to my daughter's engagement party. I wasn't. I didn't shake his hand. I'm here because the man your daughter is about to marry tried to murder his 3 sons 2 days ago. Howard's hand dropped. His expression shifted from polite confusion to sharp focus. That's a serious accusation. It's not an accusation, it's a fact. I nodded to Christopher. Show him. Christopher opened the laptop, pulled up the video, pressed play. 4 minutes. Howard Westbrook watched in silence. His face went from skeptical to pale to something that looked like he might be sick. When the video ended, he sat down heavily in one of the leather chairs. My God. His voice was barely a whisper. My God. Natalie was going to marry him. I was going to give him $40 million and 5% of my company. Yes. Those children, they're his sons. His sons. My grandsons. They almost died because he locked them in that warehouse and walked away. Howard looked up at me. Why are you showing me this? Why not go to the police? The police are already involved. FBI is positioned outside this hotel right now. But before they arrest him, I want everyone in that ballroom to see who he really is. I want your daughter to know the truth. I want every person who came here to celebrate to witness what kind of monster they were cheering for. Howard stood, straightened his tie. When he looked at me, his eyes were hard, cold, the eyes of a man who'd destroyed competitors and built empires on their ruins. How do you want to do this? I need access to the ballroom, to the stage, to your microphone. Done. Howard pulled out his phone. Typed something. I'll introduce you myself, right before the toast. Thank you. Don't thank me. Howard's voice was ice now. Thank you for stopping me from making the biggest mistake of my life, from letting that man anywhere near my daughter. He walked to the door, stopped, turned back. Mr. Armstrong, I have security positioned throughout the hotel. If Dalton tries to run, he won't get far. Howard nodded. Then he was gone. Christopher looked at me. You ready, boss? Let's go. We walked toward the ballroom. The doors were open. Music drifted out. Violins, piano. Something classical and elegant and completely wrong for what was about to happen. I stepped inside. The ballroom was stunning. White roses everywhere. Thousands of them. Climbing the walls, draped over tables, arranged in massive centerpieces that probably cost more than most people's cars. A $1.2 million party for a love that was built on lies and murder. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling. Round tables with white tablecloths seated 200 guests. A stage at the front with a podium. A screen for presentations. And there, standing near the stage, was Ethan Dalton. He wore a tuxedo, custom-fitted. His hair was perfect. His smile was perfect. His arm was around Natalie Kingsley, 28 years old, wearing a white cocktail dress that probably cost more than the median annual salary in America. She looked happy, radiant, like a woman in love. She had no idea she was standing next to a murderer. Ethan saw me. His eyes widened for just a second. Then his face smoothed over. That practiced smile. That easy charm. He leaned down and whispered something to Natalie. Then he walked toward me. Nick. His voice was warm, surprised, delighted. I didn't know you'd be here. This is such a wonderful surprise. He extended his hand. I didn't take it. How are the boys? He asked. His voice dripped with concern. I've been so worried. I tried calling the hospital, but they wouldn't tell me anything. They're alive. My voice was flat. No thanks to you. Something flickered in his eyes. Fear, anger. But it was gone in an instant. I don't understand. You thought they'd be dead by now. His smile faltered, just for a second. Then Howard Westbrook stepped onto the stage, tapped the microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, if I could have your attention, please. The room quieted. 200 faces turned toward the stage. Before we continue with the evening's celebration, there's someone who needs to address us. A man many of you know. Nick Armstrong. Whispers rippled through the crowd. People turning to each other. Confused. Curious. Ethan leaned close to Natalie. Probably just some business announcement. You know these billionaires, they can't help themselves. But I saw it in his face. The crack in the mask. The fear creeping in. He knew. I walked toward the stage. My shoes clicked on the marble floor. Every step deliberate. Every step bringing me closer to the moment I'd been waiting for. Howard extended his hand, helped me up the stairs. The spotlight hit me. Warm. Blinding. 200 faces staring up at me, and there in the front row, Ethan Dalton stood with his arm around Natalie, still smiling, still pretending. That smile was about to die. I stood at the microphone. Center stage. The ballroom went silent. 200 people staring at me. Thank you all for being here tonight, I began. My voice was steady. I know you came to celebrate love, to witness something beautiful between Natalie Kingsley and Ethan Dalton. I looked directly at Natalie. She smiled, uncertain but polite. Natalie, you're a lucky woman. I paused. Or at least you were, until tonight. Her smile faltered. Ethan stepped forward. Nick, what are you doing? I ignored him. 2 years ago, I lost my daughter, Isabel. She was 32, beautiful, kind, a devoted mother to 3 boys. Whispers rippled through the ballroom. Isabel was married to a man who seemed perfect. Charming, handsome, ambitious, a man who knew how to smile at the right people and say the right things. I turned to Ethan. His face had gone pale. That man is standing right here. Ethan Dalton. The whispers grew louder. Natalie looked at Ethan. You were married, you have children. Natalie, I can explain. Ethan reached for her hand. She pulled away. 2 days ago, I continued. I went to inspect an old warehouse in South Boston, a building I own. I was planning to demolish it. I gripped the podium. But when I arrived, I found something unexpected. The door was locked. Industrial lock. The kind you use when you don't want anyone getting in or getting out. The ballroom was completely silent now. Inside that warehouse, I found 3 children, my grandsons. Samuel, 12 years old, Matthew, 9, Jackson, 7. My voice cracked. They'd been locked in there for 2 days. No food, no water, in complete darkness, starving, terrified. Gasps echoed through the room. Samuel's arm was infected, wrapped in pieces of his own shirt. Matthew spent 2 days singing lullabies to his little brother. Jackson clutched a teddy bear, the only thing he had left of his mother. Tears were streaming down my face. The doctors said if I'd arrived 12 hours later, they would have died. All three of them. Natalie's hand flew to her mouth. She was crying. Ethan took another step forward. His voice was loud, desperate. This is insane. This is a lie. Nick, you're grieving. You're confused. This is slander. I looked at him, saw the panic in his eyes. Am I lying, Ethan? My voice was ice. Do you want me to show everyone the proof? There is no proof because this didn't happen, Christopher. My assistant stood at the back, near the AV booth. He nodded. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, I'm going to show you a video, 4 minutes long, recorded by a security camera inside that warehouse. Nick, don't do this. Ethan's voice was pleading now. I nodded to Christopher. He pressed a button. The lights dimmed. A screen descended from the ceiling. The projector hummed to life. 200 people turned to look. The video began. The timestamp appeared, Tuesday, 7:42 a.m. The warehouse door, viewed from inside. And there was Ethan Dalton, walking through that door. 3 small boys following behind him. His perfect smile, the one he'd been wearing all night, the one he'd used to charm everyone in this room, finally shattered. Because now everyone could see the truth. The screen lit up. The timestamp appeared, Tuesday, 7:42 a.m. The warehouse door, viewed from inside. Ethan Dalton walked into frame. Behind him, 3 small figures. Samuel holding Matthew's hand. Matthew holding Jackson's. Dad, where are we going? Samuel's voice came through the speakers. Just an old place I know, buddy. Thought you boys might like to explore. I've got a surprise coming. Pizza, your favorite, pepperoni and extra cheese. When? That was Matthew. Couple hours, maybe 3. Be good while you wait, okay? The boys walked into the warehouse, curious, trusting. Then Ethan stepped back. Outside. Dad. Samuel's voice, uncertain now. The door swung shut. Click. The industrial lock engaged. The sound echoed through the ballroom speakers. Loud, final. Samuel ran to the door, small fists pounding against metal. Dad. Dad, let us out. Matthew's voice joined in. We don't like this game. Jackson started crying. Daddy, Daddy, please. Through the narrow window, the camera caught Ethan's face. He stood there for 5 seconds, checking his watch, a Rolex. Then he smiled. Not nervous, not uncomfortable, satisfied. He turned, walked to his Mercedes. The camera caught the license plate clearly. He got in, started the engine, drove away. Inside the warehouse, the boys kept screaming, Mom! We want Mom! Grandpa will come, he promised. Please, please, let us out. The crying got softer, more tired, more hopeless. The timestamp kept running. 7:43 a.m., 7:44 a.m., 7:45 a.m. Then the video ended. The screen went black. The ballroom was silent, completely silent. Then the sound started, crying, gasping, someone retching in the corner. A woman in the 3rd row ran for the exit, her hand over her mouth. Natalie Kingsley collapsed into a chair, sobbing. Howard wrapped his arms around his daughter. Ethan took a step forward, his hands raised, desperate. That video, it's edited. It's been manipulated. The FBI has the original file, I said. They've verified it. Timestamps, metadata, everything. I was teaching them a lesson. They were misbehaving. Teach them a lesson. I stepped down from the stage. By locking them in a warehouse for 2 days with no food, no water. When were you planning to come back? When they were dead. I was going to come back, I just needed time to think. The wedding plans, the pressure. You needed $40 million. My voice was ice. And 3 children were in your way. I was standing right in front of him now. So you decided to erase them. Lock them away. Let them die. Then start fresh with a new wife? A richer wife? That's insane. I reached into my jacket, pulled out the envelope. This is a letter, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Written by my daughter, Isabel, 3 days before she died. I unfolded it. My hands were shaking. She wrote, "Dad, Ethan didn't marry me because he loved me. He married me to get close to your money. I found a life insurance policy in his office, $5 million, with me as the beneficiary, purchased 6 months ago." Gasps echoed through the ballroom. 3 days after Isabel wrote this letter, she died in a car accident on Route 2. I looked at Ethan. His face had gone white. But Isabel was the most careful driver I knew. She never took risks, especially not with her children in the car. It was an accident. I loved Isabel. You collected $5 million in life insurance 3 weeks after she died. Silence. And tonight you were about to collect $40 million more, plus 5% equity in Westbrook Equity Holdings. All you had to do was get rid of the children first. Natalie stood up, her face streaked with tears and mascara. Did you kill her? Her voice was barely a whisper. Did you kill your wife? Natalie, please. Did you kill her? Ethan looked around the ballroom. 200 faces staring at him with horror, with disgust, with rage. He'd lost everything. The money, the marriage, the future he'd killed for. It was an accident, he whispered, but his voice was hollow, empty of conviction. Get away from my daughter. Howard's voice was steel, cold, final. Get away from her right now. Ethan backed up, his eyes darting around the room, looking for an exit, looking for sympathy, looking for anything that might save him. He found nothing. 200 witnesses had just watched him lock his children in a warehouse to die, had just heard about the insurance policy, the suspicious accident, the calculated cruelty. There was no coming back from this. The ballroom doors burst open, heavy footsteps, multiple people, moving fast. Agent Patrick Grant stepped into the ballroom. His FBI badge caught the chandelier light and threw silver reflections across the walls. Behind him, 4 more agents in tactical gear, hands near their weapons, eyes scanning the room with the practiced efficiency of people who'd done this 1,000 times. Grant's voice filled the ballroom. Steady, authoritative, the voice of justice finally arriving. Ethan Dalton, FBI, you're under arrest. Ethan's head snapped toward the doors. His face went from white to gray, like all the blood had drained out of him. Charges include child endangerment, abandonment of minors, attempted murder, insurance fraud, and suspicion of vehicular homicide in the death of Isabel Armstrong Dalton? No. Ethan shook his head, backing away from the approaching agents. No, you can't. His eyes darted to the side exit, 20 feet away, past the dessert table with its untouched wedding cake. He ran. But 2 agents were already there, positioned, waiting. They'd anticipated this. Ethan skidded to a stop, spun around, looked for another way out. The ballroom had 4 exits. Every single one was blocked by federal agents. He was trapped, just like he'd trapped his sons in that warehouse. Don't make this harder than it needs to be, Grant said. He was walking toward Ethan now, slow, deliberate, like he had all the time in the world, because he did. Ethan had nowhere to go. This is a mistake. Ethan's voice was shrill now, desperate. I want my lawyer. You can't arrest me without... We have a warrant, signed by a federal judge 2 hours ago. Grant pulled a document from his jacket. And we have probable cause. Multiple counts. The evidence is overwhelming. Two agents moved in from the sides. Ethan tried to dodge, tried to push past them. One agent grabbed his right arm, twisted it behind his back with practiced efficiency. Another secured the left. The handcuffs clicked into place. That sound, metal on metal, final and irrevocable, seemed to echo through the silent ballroom. "You have the right to remain silent," Grant began. "Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to an attorney." "Nick." Ethan twisted against the agents holding him. His face was red now, veins bulging in his neck. "Nick, you did this. You destroyed my life." I stepped down from the stage, walked toward him slowly, every eye in the ballroom watching me. I stopped 3 feet away, close enough to see the sweat on his forehead, the panic in his eyes, the complete and utter destruction of the mask he'd worn for so long. "No, Ethan." My voice was cold, calm. "You destroyed your own life. I just made sure everyone got to see it." Something snapped in him then, the last thread of control, the final pretense. His face contorted, rage replacing fear. "Those kids!" He was screaming now, spit flying from his mouth. "Those kids were a burden. They ruined everything. They stood in the way of everything I deserved." The ballroom erupted, gasps, shouts. Someone screamed. Natalie made a sound like she'd been punched. Her father pulled her closer, shielding her from the monster she'd almost married. "I gave them food!" Ethan kept screaming. The agents were pulling him toward the exit, but he fought them, twisting, thrashing. "I gave them a roof. I was their father, and they couldn't even be grateful, couldn't even shut up." My voice cut through his rant. "Shut your mouth." But he wouldn't stop. "I should have finished them when I had the chance. I should have made sure they never—" My fist connected with his jaw. I didn't plan it. Didn't think about it. 1 second I was standing still. The next my hand was swinging. The impact sent pain shooting up my arm. Ethan's head snapped back. Blood appeared at the corner of his mouth. "Boss!" Christopher grabbed my arm. 2 agents stepped between us. "Mr. Armstrong, step back." Grant's voice was firm, but not angry. "Let us handle this." I stepped back, my hand throbbing, my knuckles already swelling. Worth it. The agents dragged Ethan toward the exit. He was still screaming, still thrashing. "You'll regret this. I'll sue you. I'll destroy you. I'll—" The doors closed behind him. His voice cut off mid-threat. The ballroom was silent. Then someone started clapping. One person, in the back row, an older woman in a blue dress. Then another person joined. Then 10, 20, 50. 200 people rose to their feet, applauding. Some were crying, some were shouting, but they were all standing. For justice. For those 3 boys. For Isabel. For truth. I stood there, my hand throbbing, my heart pounding. I felt nothing. Not triumph, not satisfaction. Just exhaustion. Howard Westbrook walked over, his arm still around Natalie. She looked broken, makeup ruined, eyes red and swollen. But when she looked at me, there was something else there too. Gratitude. "Thank you." Her voice was hoarse from crying. "Thank you for saving me from him." I nodded, couldn't speak. Howard extended his hand. I shook it with my good hand, the one I hadn't just used to punch a federal prisoner. "Mr. Armstrong, what you did tonight saved my daughter's life." Howard's voice was steady despite the emotion in his eyes. "You exposed evil, and you honored your daughter's memory. I just did what needed to be done." "No." Howard's grip tightened. "You did what most men wouldn't have the courage to do." He released my hand, straightened his shoulders. "I'm establishing a fund, the Isabel Dalton Memorial Fund, $10 million, to support children who've been abused, Neglected. Abandoned. My throat closed. I nodded. I'll contribute too, Natalie said. Her voice was stronger now. However much you need, whatever it takes to make sure no other children go through what Samuel, Matthew, and Jackson went through. Your daughter would have been proud of that, Howard said quietly. She would have, I managed to say. Agent Grant approached. Mr. Armstrong will need a full statement, but not tonight. Tonight you should go be with your grandsons. What happens to him now? Arraignment tomorrow morning. With the evidence, we have the video, the medical records, your daughter's letter, his confession in front of 200 witnesses. He's looking at life. Multiple life sentences. Good. Grant studied me, then nodded toward my hand. That was a good punch. He had it coming. Yeah. Grant almost smiled. Yeah, he did. Just don't make it a habit. No promises. Grant shook my good hand. Those boys are lucky to have you. No, Agent Grant. I'm lucky to have them. Christopher appeared at my side. Boss, we should go. I looked around the ballroom one last time, the white roses wilting under the hot lights, the wedding cake no one would ever eat, the celebration that had turned into a reckoning. This was supposed to be about love. In a strange way, it still was. My phone buzzed. A text from Ruth. The boys are awake. They're asking for you. I showed Christopher the screen. Let's go home, I said. Christopher and I stepped out of the Liberty Hotel. The cool Boston night air hit my face. Sharp, clean, washing away the stale heat of the ballroom and everything that had happened inside. I stopped on the sidewalk, turned back to look at the building. Brick facade. Tall windows glowing with warm light. Beautiful, historic, the kind of place tourists photographed. You know what this building used to be, I said. Christopher followed my gaze. Charles Street Jail, built in 1851. They turned a prison into a luxury hotel. I watched a couple walk through the entrance, laughing, oblivious. Tonight it became a prison again. For Ethan. Christopher was quiet for a moment. Then, poetic justice. Something like that. The Mercedes pulled up. We climbed in. The leather seats felt familiar, comforting. The same car I'd driven to that warehouse. The same car that had taken me to this hotel. Now taking me back to the hospital. Full circle. We drove through Boston, down Charles Street. Past the Common where couples walked hand in hand. Past restaurants with glowing windows and people eating dinner like it was just another Thursday night. For them it was. For me, everything had changed. Boss. Christopher's voice was quiet, careful. I need to say something. You don't. I do. His hands gripped the steering wheel tighter. Ruth Morgan, I blocked her calls. For 3 months she tried to warn you about Ethan, about the boys, and I stopped her. I thought she was a scam. I thought, Christopher, if I just listened, if I just let one call through. Stop. He stopped, his jaw tight, eyes on the road. You were protecting me, I said. From spam, from people trying to get money, from the 1,000 calls a billionaire gets every week from people who want something. You were doing your job. My job almost cost those boys their lives. No. I turned to face him. I almost cost them their lives. I ignored my daughter for 40 years because I was building an empire. I missed birthdays, school plays, graduations. I chose boardrooms over bedrooms, deals over family. I looked out the window at the city passing by. Isabel tried to warn me. She told me I'd regret it, and I didn't listen. Then she died, and I had a second chance. With her sons, my grandsons, and I walked away from that too. My voice cracked. I walked away for 6 months. 6 months. I told myself they needed space, that Ethan had it handled, that they were fine. Boss. They almost died because I was a coward, because facing them meant facing my guilt, facing everything I'd failed at as a father. The car was silent except for the hum of the engine and the sound of traffic outside. So no, Christopher. You don't get to take the blame for this. I own it. All of it. Christopher was quiet for a long moment. Then, what do we do now? I looked at him. This man who'd worked for me for 20 years, who'd blocked calls to protect me, who'd driven me to a warehouse at 8 p.m. without questions, who'd stood beside me through everything tonight. Now, I said, now we go be family. You've been there for every major moment of my life. You were there when Isabel was born, when she got married, when she died. You were there tonight when we saved her sons. I paused. If you're willing, I'd like you to be Uncle Chris to 3 boys who need all the family they can get. Christopher's eyes got wet. He blinked hard, kept his eyes on the road. Uncle Chris, he said quietly. I'd like that. We pulled up to Brigham and Women's Hospital at 10 p.m. The same emergency entrance I'd rushed through with 3 dying children just hours ago. But everything was different now. Christopher parked, cut the engine. We sat there for a moment. You ready for this, boss? I looked at the hospital. The white lights, the sliding glass doors, the place where Isabel had died and her sons had been saved. I built a $3.2 billion empire, I said. Crushing Ethan was the easy part. Learning how to be the grandfather those boys deserve, that's the real work. That starts now. Christopher nodded. Then let's start. We got out of the car, walked toward the entrance side by side. The automatic doors slid open. The familiar smell of antiseptic and floor cleaner. The bright fluorescent lights. The sounds of machines beeping and people talking. I'd always hated hospitals. They smelled like death, like loss, like the night I lost Isabel. But tonight was different. Tonight I wasn't here to lose someone. I was here to find my family. I pushed open the door to room 347. The lights were dimmed, soft, gentle. Ruth sat in the chair beside the bed, reading aloud from a worn paperback. Her voice was steady, soothing. 3 small figures lay in the hospital bed. Samuel propped up on pillows. Matthew curled against his older brother's side. Jackson clutched between them, that teddy bear still in his arms. They looked up when the door opened, and their faces transformed. Grandpa? Samuel's voice was hoarse but strong, alive. I crossed the room in 3 steps, sat on the edge of the bed, and suddenly all 3 boys were reaching for me, arms wrapping around my neck, my waist, anywhere they could hold on. You came back. Jackson's voice was muffled against my chest. You really came back. I told you I would. My voice cracked. I'll always come back. Christopher stood in the doorway. Ruth rose from her chair. They gave us space. Let us have this moment. Where's Dad? Matthew asked. His voice was small, uncertain. I pulled back just enough to look at all 3 of them. Their faces, their eyes, still too thin, still marked by what they'd endured, but alive, safe. Your father is in jail, I said, simple, direct. He was arrested tonight. He's going to be there for a very long time. He can't hurt you anymore. Samuel's face hardened. Something dark flashed in his 12-year-old eyes. Good. I hope he stays there forever. Samuel. Ruth started. No. Samuel looked at her, then at me. He locked us in that place. He left us to die. He's not my father anymore. I pulled Samuel closer. You have every right to feel that way. I hate him. Samuel's voice shook. I hate him so much. I know, buddy, I know. Jackson looked up at me. His eyes were wet. Can we live with you forever? The word hit me like a punch. Forever. The promise I should have made 2 years ago. The promise I was finally ready to keep. Yes. I held him tighter. Held all 3 of them. Forever, I promise. Really? Matthew's voice was hopeful. Fragile. Like he was afraid to believe it. Really. We'll get you everything new. New clothes, new toys, new school, a fresh start. Whatever you need. I don't want to go back to the old house, Samuel said. I don't want anything from there. You don't have to. We'll start completely fresh. Ruth's voice came from behind me, thick with tears. Isabel would be so proud of you, Nick. I looked back at her. This woman who'd loved my daughter, who'd tried to save her sons, who'd never given up. Thank you, Ruth, for everything. She nodded, wiped her eyes. Those boys are lucky to have you. I'm the lucky one. We stayed like that for an hour, the boys asking questions, me answering. Christopher eventually coming in, the boys accepting him immediately when I introduced him as Uncle Chris. Eventually, they fell asleep, exhausted, safe, wrapped around each other like they'd spent 2 days doing in that warehouse. But this time they weren't afraid. This time they knew someone was watching over them. The next morning, 9 a.m. I sat in a conference room down the hall. Agent Grant was there. Edward Bennett, Christopher, Ruth, and me. Drinking terrible hospital coffee. Waiting. Grant spoke first. Ethan Dalton was arraigned this morning. 7 charges: child endangerment, attempted murder, 3 counts of assault on a minor, insurance fraud, and we're working with the Massachusetts State Police on potential vehicular homicide charges for your daughter's death. I set down my coffee. What's he looking at? 25 to 35 years, minimum. With his confession last night screaming about how the children were a burden in front of 200 witnesses, his lawyers already talking plea deals. But we're not offering anything good. Good. Edward opened his briefcase, pulled out a stack of documents. Nick, we need to talk about custody. Formal custody. I have emergency custody already. Yes, but that's temporary. We need to file for full legal guardianship, permanent, which given the circumstances should be straightforward. Edward slid papers across the table. You're the children's grandfather, the sole surviving family member. Ethan will likely have his parental rights terminated. You're the obvious choice. How long will it take? 2 weeks, maybe 3. There will be a hearing. A judge will want to interview the children. But with Agent Grant's testimony, the video evidence, and Ethan's arrest, it's a formality. I looked at Grant. Will the boys have to testify in Ethan's trial? Grant shook his head. We'll do everything we can to avoid that. The video is damning enough. Their medical records, the warehouse evidence, your daughter's letter. We have what we need. I don't want them in a courtroom. I don't want them to have to face him. Understood. We'll make it work. Edward pulled out another document. There's also the matter of the trust fund. $100 million. We've set it up as you requested. Protected. The boys won't be able to access it until they're 25, but it will cover their education, medical expenses, and living costs until then. Can Ethan touch it? Not a cent. It's ironclad. Even if he somehow gets out of prison, he has no legal claim to it. Good. Ruth leaned forward. What about school? Their records are still at their old district. We'll transfer them, I said. New school, clean slate. No one needs to know what happened. Let them just be kids. They'll need therapy, Grant said quietly. What they went through, it's going to stay with them for a long time. Already arranged. Edward found the best child psychologist in Boston. She starts seeing them next week. Grant nodded, approval in his eyes. You're doing this right, Mr. Armstrong. I'm trying. That's more than most people do. Edward gathered his papers. Nick, I'll file the guardianship paperwork today. The hearing will be in 2 weeks. Bring the boys. Let the judge see that they're safe, happy, thriving. They will be. Agent Grant stood, extended his hand. Mr. Armstrong, those boys are lucky to have you. I shook his hand, looked past him to the window. Dawn was breaking over Boston, pink and gold light spreading across the Charles River, the city waking up, a new day beginning. No, Agent Grant. I turned back to face him. I'm the lucky one. He studied me for a moment, then smiled, a real smile. Yeah, I think you are. The meeting ended. People filed out. Christopher lingered. Boss, what do you need? Call the real estate agent. I need a house. Big enough for 3 boys and whoever else ends up being family. Backyard, good school district, safe neighborhood. On it. And Christopher. Yeah, boss. Thank you for everything. He nodded. That's what family does. I walked back to room 347. The boys were still sleeping. Ruth was back in her chair, keeping watch. I sat down beside her. We didn't speak, just watched 3 children breathe, in and out, alive, safe. Outside the window, Boston came to life. Cars honking, people walking to work, the world turning. And in this small hospital room, a new family was beginning. Not the family I'd planned, not the family I'd expected, but the family I'd been given, the family I'd almost lost, the family I'd finally learned to fight for, forever. 3 days later, the doctors cleared the boys for discharge. I arrived at 8 a.m. with 3 shopping bags full of new clothes. Jeans, t-shirts, sneakers. Everything still had tags on them. Everything fresh, clean, untouched by the past. Samuel held up a Red Sox t-shirt. Really? Really? You like baseball? I don't know. I've never been to a game. Then we're going. Opening day. Best seats in Fenway. Matthew pulled on a pair of sneakers. Light up ones. His face lit up brighter than the shoes when he saw them flash. Jackson just stared at his new clothes, running his fingers over the soft fabric, like he couldn't believe they were his. You okay, buddy? I knelt down beside him. They're so clean, he whispered. My throat closed. Yeah, they are. Dr. Rebecca Walsh came in with discharge papers. Gentlemen, you're free to go, but... She looked at me. They need follow-up, therapy, 3 sessions per week minimum. What they experienced will stay with them. Already arranged. Best child psychologist in Boston. Good. She paused, studied me. And you, Mr. Armstrong? Have you arranged therapy for yourself? The question caught me off guard. I'm fine. Are you? Her voice was gentle but firm. You lost your daughter. Nearly lost your grandsons. Discovered your son-in-law tried to murder them. That's trauma. You need to process it too. I will, when they're settled. Don't wait too long. They need you healthy, body and mind. I nodded. Thank you, doctor, for everything. We walked out of Brigham and Women's Hospital together. The boys between me and Christopher, Ruth following behind. A strange little procession. The Mercedes was waiting. Christopher had brought the bigger car, the SUV room for everyone. Where are we going? Samuel asked as we climbed in. There's something I need you to see. We drove through Boston. The boys pressed their faces against the windows, watching the city pass by, the world they'd almost left behind. 20 minutes later, we pulled up to the warehouse in South Boston. The building looked different in daylight. Still old, still broken, but somehow less menacing. Just a building, brick and mortar and memories. I opened the door. The boys climbed out slowly. Samuel saw it first. His body went rigid. Yes. I stood beside him. That's where you were. Matthew grabbed Jackson's hand. Jackson took a step back toward the car. It's okay. I knelt down, eye level with all three of them. You're safe, I promise. But I need to show you something. Can you trust me? Jackson looked at the warehouse, then at me, then back at the building. It's scary, he whispered. I know, but maybe we can change that. We walked to the entrance. I didn't open the door, didn't make them go inside. Just stood there, the five of us, looking at the place where everything had changed. I was going to demolish this building, I said, turn it into a logistics center. $45 million. Just another deal, another project. The boys were silent, listening. But I've changed my mind. Samuel looked up at me. What are you going to do with it? I'm going to turn it into a home. Our home. 3 pairs of eyes went wide. Really? Matthew's voice was barely audible. Really? We're going to take this dark, scary place and fill it with light, with love, with family. We're going to transform it into something beautiful. Bakaicha, Samuel looked at the warehouse. It's where... I know what it is. I know what happened here. But that's not all it has to be. I put my hand on his shoulder. Right now, this place is a tomb, a reminder of the worst moment of your lives. But we can change that. We can make it a home, a place where you feel safe, where you're loved, where you're protected. Jackson tugged on my sleeve. Can we have a playground? I smiled. Absolutely. And a dog, Matthew asked. Can we get a dog? Yes, a big one. Samuel was still staring at the building. His face was hard to read. Then, can we do something for Mom, something, so she's part of the house too? My chest tightened. What did you have in mind? A garden. Mom loved roses. White ones. Can we plant a garden, call it Isabel's garden? I couldn't speak, just nodded. Ruth stepped forward, her hand on Samuel's shoulder. Your mother would love that. Christopher pulled out his tablet. Boss, I took the liberty of contacting an architect. She drew up some preliminary plans. Want to see? The boys crowded around the screen. Christopher swiped through images. The warehouse transformed. Windows opened up. Skylights installed. The old brick cleaned and restored. Inside, an open floor plan. High ceilings. Bedrooms on the 2nd floor. A massive kitchen. Living spaces filled with light. And in the back, visible through floor-to-ceiling windows, a garden. White roses, pathways, benches, a place to remember, a place to heal. It's beautiful, Matthew whispered. Samuel nodded. Mom would like it. Jackson looked up at me. Is this really going to be our home? I picked him up, held him close. Yes, this is going to be our home, all of ours. Forever. Forever. Christopher zoomed in on the garden. The architect suggested a plaque, something simple. Isabel's garden, where love never dies. The words hit me like a wave. I nodded, couldn't trust my voice. We stood there, the 5 of us, looking at what the warehouse would become. Not a tomb, not a crime scene, not a place of darkness and fear. A home. Christopher closed the tablet. Construction can start next week. It'll take about 3 months, maybe 4. Where will we live until then? Samuel asked. I've rented a house, temporary, in Brookline. Good schools, safe neighborhood. We'll be there until this is ready. And then we move here. Matthew looked at the warehouse. To our real home. To our real home. Ruth wiped her eyes. Nick, this is... She couldn't finish. I knew what she meant. This was redemption, second chances, taking the worst moment and transforming it into something beautiful. The boys were quiet, processing, imagining. Then Jackson said, Grandpa, yes, buddy, humkayu. Thank you. 2 words. Simple. Small. They broke me. I pulled all 3 boys close. Christopher and Ruth stepped back, gave us space. No, I whispered into their hair. Thank you. For giving me another chance. For letting me be your grandfather. For letting me be family. We stood there. 4 generations, if you counted the memory of Isabel united in front of a broken building that would soon be whole. The sun broke through the clouds. Light spilled across the brick facade. The warehouse didn't look scary anymore. It looked like possibility. Christopher cleared his throat. Should we head to the temporary house, get you boys settled? The boys nodded. We walked back to the car. But before we drove away, I looked back one more time. The warehouse stood silent, waiting. Not a tomb anymore. A cocoon. And soon we'd emerge. Transformed. Whole. A family born from ashes. 3 months passed like a dream. Each day brought something new, something hopeful, something that felt like healing. The boys moved into my penthouse temporarily. Floor 45 overlooking the Charles River. The kind of place I'd lived alone for 20 years. It had never felt like home until they arrived. We enrolled them at Boston Latin School the first week. Samuel in 7th grade, Matthew in 4th, Jackson in 2nd. The first day, Samuel was terrified. What if they ask about Dad? You tell them the truth. Your father isn't in your life anymore. Your grandfather is raising you. He nodded, squared his shoulders, walked into that school like he owned it. Therapy started that same week. 3 sessions for each boy, and 1 for me. Dr. Walsh had been right. I needed it as much as they did. What are you most afraid of? The therapist asked. Failing them, the way I failed their mother. Then we worked toward the opposite, them being happy, safe, knowing they're loved. I also started cooking. Badly. The first time I tried breakfast, I burned the toast so thoroughly the smoke alarm went off. The boys thought it was hilarious. Grandpa, maybe we should order takeout, Samuel suggested. Nonsense. I built a $3.2 billion company. I can make scrambled eggs. I could not make scrambled eggs, but I kept trying. Ruth moved in to help, took over the guest room. She knew how to cook, how to handle bedtime routines, how to braid Jackson's hair when he decided to grow it out. By the 2nd month, the warehouse began to take shape. Walls went up, windows installed, the skeleton of a home emerging. We visited every weekend. The boys ran through empty rooms calling dibs. This is my room, Matthew declared. What color do you want? He thought hard. Green, like grass. Green it is. Samuel chose ocean blue. Jackson chose sunshine yellow. 6 weeks in, I made another decision. I put the penthouse on the market. Christopher was shocked. Boss, you've lived there for 20 years. I know, but it's not home. The warehouse that's going to be home. Sunday afternoons became chess lessons. Christopher teaching all 3 boys. Samuel picked it up fast. Matthew preferred checkers. Jackson just liked moving the pieces around. That's not how chess works, Samuel protested. It's Jackson chess, Jackson announced. The horses can jump anywhere. We let him win every time. By late February, the house neared completion. Hardwood floors gleamed. Kitchen appliances sparkled. bedrooms painted in chosen colors, and in the back, Isabel's garden waited. We planted the roses together on the first Saturday of March. White roses, 40 bushes, one for each year she should have lived. The plaque went up that afternoon. Bronze, simple, beautiful. Isabel's garden, where love never dies. Samuel traced the letters with his finger. She would have liked this. She would have loved it, Ruth corrected gently. We chose furniture together over the following weeks. A massive dining table that could seat 12, leather couches, bookshelves, and photographs everywhere. Isabel on the walls, on the mantel, on the refrigerator. Her smile watching over us, always. Jackson stood in the living room, turning in circles. It's so big. Big enough for all of us, I said. And Uncle Chris, and Uncle Chris, and Nana Ruth, and Nana Ruth, and my dog. We hadn't gotten the dog yet, but we would. And your dog. He grinned. The final walkthrough happened on a Friday afternoon in mid-March. The architect, the contractor, Mrs. Christopher, Ruth, the boys. We walked through every room, checking every detail, every paint color, every fixture. When we reached the garden, the sun was setting. Golden light spilled across the white roses. They hadn't bloomed yet, but they would. It's perfect, Samuel said quietly. I looked at him, at Matthew, at Jackson, at this family we'd built from rubble and grief. Yeah, I said. It is. I stood in the completed living room, sunlight streaming through massive windows. Christopher and Ruth stood beside me, watching the boys race up the stairs, claiming spaces, laughing. 3 months ago, this was a tomb, Christopher said. Now it's a home. Ruth's voice was thick with emotion. I nodded. 3 months ago, I'd found 3 dying children in this building. 3 boys I'd failed. 3 grandsons I'd almost lost. Now I was watching them run through hallways that would echo with their laughter, past bedrooms where they'd sleep safely, through a kitchen where we'd burn toast together. This wasn't just a building anymore. It was a cocoon. And we were emerging, transformed, whole. Finally home. I woke up early on what would have been Isabel's 35th birthday. The house was still quiet, sunlight just beginning to filter through the windows of our new home. Today would be different. I went downstairs, made pancakes, real ones, not burned. After 3 months of practice, I'd finally figured it out. The boys came down one by one, Samuel first, then Matthew, Jackson trailing behind with his bear. Grandpa, you made breakfast. Matthew stared at the golden brown pancakes. I did, and they're edible this time. They sat at our new dining table, the big one that seated 12. Christopher joined us. Ruth poured orange juice. We ate together, like a family. Then I set down my fork. Boys, I need to talk to you about something. 3 pairs of eyes looked up at me. Today is your mother's birthday. She would have been 35. I paused. I'd like us to visit her, at the cemetery, together, if you're okay with that. Samuel's face went still. Dad never took us. I know, but I'd like to, if you want to. Matthew nodded slowly. Can we bring her flowers from the garden? That's exactly what I was thinking. Jackson looked at Ruth. Will Mommy see them? Ruth's eyes filled with tears. I think she will, sweetheart. We drove to Mount Auburn Cemetery in Cambridge 40 minutes later. The trees were turning, gold and red and orange, the kind of fall day Isabel had loved. The boys carried white roses, fresh cut from Isabel's garden, still wet with morning dew. I hadn't been here since the funeral, 2 years ago, the worst day of my life, until I'd almost lost her sons. We walked through the cemetery gates, past old graves and newer ones, past families visiting their own dead. Isabel's grave was in the northeast section, under a maple tree. Her headstone was simple, white marble. Isabel Armstrong Dalton, beloved daughter, devoted mother, 1989 to 2023. And below that, the line I'd chosen, love never dies. The same words on the plaque in her garden. The boys stood there, staring. Samuel's hand found mine. Matthew grabbed the other. Jackson pressed against my leg. I knelt down, eye level with the headstone. The boys knelt beside me. Samuel placed the roses at the base. His hand trembled. "Hi, Mom." His voice cracked. "It's Samuel. It's been a while." He stopped, swallowed hard. "We're okay now. Grandpa saved us. He found us in the warehouse and he saved us." Matthew leaned forward. "We have a new house, Mom. It's beautiful. And there's a garden with your name on it. White roses, just like you liked." Jackson touched the headstone. "Grandpa says you're watching us. Can you see us?" My throat closed. I couldn't speak. Samuel kept going. "Dad's in jail. He can't hurt us anymore. Grandpa made sure. And we're living with Grandpa now, and Uncle Chris, and Nana Ruth. We're a family." I finally found my voice. Rough. Broken. "Isabel." I pressed my palm against the marble. Cold. Smooth. Nothing like her warm hand used to be. "Baby girl, I'm so sorry." The boys were quiet, listening. "I'm sorry I didn't listen when you tried to warn me. Sorry I chose work over you. Over them. Sorry I failed you as a father." A tear fell, then another. "But I promise you, I swear to you, I won't fail your sons. I'll protect them. Love them. Give them everything you wanted them to have. They're safe now. They're home." The wind picked up. Leaves rustled overhead. And something white drifted down. A rose petal. From the flowers Samuel had placed. It landed in my open palm. I stared at it. This impossible, perfect, tiny thing. "Mom's saying thank you," Samuel whispered. "That's her way of saying thank you." I looked at him. This 12-year-old boy who'd survived hell, who still believed in signs, in his mother watching over him. "Yeah," I said. "I think you're right." We stayed for another 10 minutes, the boys talking to Isabel, telling her about school, about the house, about the dog we were getting next week, telling her about their lives, the ones she should have been part of. Christopher and Ruth waited by the car, giving us space, giving us time. Finally we stood. The boys each touched the headstone one more time. "Bye, Mom," Jackson said. "We love you." "We love you," Matthew echoed. Samuel didn't say anything, just pressed his forehead against the marble for a long moment. Then we walked away. Hand in hand, the 5 of us. I turned back once, looked at Isabel's grave, the white roses, the maple tree, the sunlight filtering through golden leaves. "Rest easy, sweetheart," I whispered. "Your boys are home now. Moving day." The truck arrived at 8 a.m., but the boys had been awake since 6, too excited to sleep, too eager to finally live in the home we'd built together. I found them sitting on the front steps of the temporary house in Brookline, still in their pajamas, waiting. "Can we go now?" Jackson asked for the 10th time. "Soon, buddy. Soon." By 8:30 we were pulling up to the warehouse, except it wasn't a warehouse anymore. It was home. The moving truck was already there. Men unloading furniture, boxes, everything we'd chosen together over the past 3 months. The boys bolted from the car before I'd even put it in park. "Wait!" Ruth called after them. But they were gone, racing through the front door, their footsteps echoing on the new hardwood floors. I followed them inside. Samuel stood in the middle of the living room, turning in slow circles, taking it all in, the high ceilings, the massive windows flooding everything with light, the exposed brick we'd cleaned and restored, the space that used to be dark and terrifying, now warm and welcoming. "It's real," he whispered. "It's actually real." Matthew was already running up the stairs. "My room, I can see my room." Jackson chased after him. "Wait for me." Christopher appeared beside me. "They seem happy." "Yeah." My voice was thick. "They do." The movers brought in furniture, piece by piece. The boys directed traffic like tiny foremen, telling grown men where to put the couch, how to angle the dining table, which boxes went to which rooms. Ruth laughed. "They're your grandsons, all right. Natural leaders." By noon, the major furniture was in place. The boys disappeared into their rooms, unpacking, making their spaces their own. I walked through the house slowly, room by room, touching walls, running my hand along the banister, making sure it was real. The kitchen gleamed, stainless steel appliances, a breakfast bar where the boys could do homework, an island where we'd cook together. The living room was spacious, comfortable, the kind of room built for family game nights and movie marathons. And everywhere windows, light pouring in. No more darkness, no more shadows. I climbed the stairs, stopped at Samuel's room first. He was standing at his window, staring out at something. "You okay, buddy?" He didn't turn around. "I can see Mom's garden from here." I moved to stand beside him. Sure enough, through his window, you could see straight down to Isabel's garden, the white roses, the bronze plaque, the place we'd built to remember her. "The architect did that on purpose," I said. "When you told her you wanted to see the garden, she made sure your window faced it." "So Mom's always with me?" "Yeah, she is." He looked up at me, 12 years old, but somehow looking older. "Thank you, Grandpa, for all of this." I pulled him into a hug. "No, Samuel, thank you for giving me a reason to do it." Matthew's room was chaos. Boxes everywhere, clothes spilling out, books scattered across the floor. He was trying to arrange everything at once. "Need help?" I asked. He looked up, grinned. "Nana Ruth already said she'd help after lunch. She says I have too much energy and not enough organization." She's not wrong. Jackson's room was the smallest, but somehow felt the brightest. Sunshine, yellow walls, a reading nook by the window. His bed was already made. That old teddy bear, Isabel's bear, sitting proudly on the pillow. "It's perfect," he said when I checked on him. "My room is perfect." "I'm glad, buddy." "Grandpa." "Yeah. Are we really going to live here forever?" I knelt down, met his eyes. "Yes. This is our home now. Forever." He threw his arms around my neck. "Good. Because I really like it here." Afternoon melted into evening. The movers left. Christopher ordered pizza for lunch. We ate sitting on the floor of the living room because the table wasn't set up yet. It felt right. Informal. Real. By 5 p.m. I was hanging pictures in the living room. The big one first. Isabel, center of the wall, 8 by 10. Her smile huge. Her eyes bright. Taken on her 30th birthday. 3 years before she died. Around her picture I hung others. The boys at the beach last month. Christopher teaching Samuel chess. Ruth braiding Jackson's hair. Matthew covered in paint from art class. A family, captured in moments, surrounding Isabel, including her. "She looks happy," Samuel said from behind me. She was, that day. "I wish she could see this, see the house." "I think she can." He nodded. Didn't argue. By 6 o'clock, PM Ruth announced dinner was ready. Spaghetti and meatballs, garlic bread, salad, simple food, but somehow perfect for our first meal in our new home. We gathered around the dining table, the big one, 12 seats. Tonight only 6 were filled, me at the head, Samuel to my right, Matthew and Jackson across from him, Christopher on my left, Ruth beside him. But it didn't feel empty. It felt full. Before we ate, Samuel cleared his throat. "Can I say something?" "Of course." He looked around the table, at his brothers, at Uncle Chris and Nana Ruth, at me. Mom used to say grace before dinner, every night. I was thinking maybe we could do that here, in our new house. My chest tightened. I think that's a beautiful idea. Samuel bowed his head. We followed. Thank you for this food. Thank you for this house. Thank you for Grandpa who saved us. Thank you for Uncle Chris and Nana Ruth who help us every day. And thank you for Mom, who we know is watching. His voice cracked on the last word. We miss you, Mom. But we're okay now. We're home. Amen, Matthew and Jackson said together. Amen, Ruth echoed, tears streaming down her face. Amen, Christopher and I finished. We ate, we talked, we laughed. Jackson told a story about a kid at school who could burp the alphabet. Matthew complained about his math teacher. Samuel asked if we could get that dog now that we had a backyard. Normal, ordinary, beautiful. Halfway through dinner, Jackson raised his glass of apple juice. Can we make a toast? Sure, buddy. What are we toasting, ho? Mom and new beginnings. I raised my glass. Everyone followed. To Isabel, I said, who gave us these 3 incredible boys, and to new beginnings, to family, to home. To Mom, Samuel said. To new beginnings, Matthew added. To family, Jackson finished. We clinked glasses. The sound echoed through our new dining room, through our new house, through the home we'd built from ruins. After dinner, the boys asked if they could play in the backyard, in Isabel's garden. It's almost dark, Ruth said. Just for a little bit, Matthew pleaded. Please. I nodded. 30 minutes, then showers and bed. Tomorrow's a school day. They ran outside, their laughter echoing through the open windows. I stood at the kitchen sink, washing dishes, Christopher drying, Ruth putting things away. Through the window, I could see them. 3 silhouettes running through the garden, chasing fireflies, playing tag around the white roses, their voices carrying on the evening breeze. You did it, boss, Christopher said quietly. You really did it. We did it, I corrected. All of us. Ruth touched my arm. Isabel would be so proud. I watched the boys, Samuel catching a firefly and showing it to Jackson, Matthew lying on his back in the grass, staring up at the stars just starting to appear. 3 children who almost died. 3 grandsons I almost lost. 3 boys who were now home, safe, happy, loved. This was wealth. Not the $3.2 billion company. Not the penthouse or the cars or the deals I'd spent 40 years chasing. This. Right here. These 3 boys laughing in a garden named after their mother. This was success. This was everything. 9 months after the night I found them dying in the dark, we stood together in Isabel's garden to mark the day our lives changed forever. The roses were in full bloom, white petals like stars scattered across green leaves. The morning sun was warm. The air smelled like summer and hope. Gramps, Jackson called. He'd started calling me that 3 months ago. Now all 3 boys used it. Come see, I walked over. The boys stood around a young oak tree, still in its nursery pot, waiting to be planted. What's this? I asked. Samuel stepped forward. He was taller now, healthier, the hollow look gone from his face. It's a family tree. We want to plant it. Right here, in the center of Mom's garden. So it grows with us, Matthew added. Every year we'll see how much it's grown, and we'll know we're growing too. Jackson tugged my hand. Will you help us plant it, Gramps? My throat closed. I nodded. Couldn't speak. Christopher and Ruth came out with shovels. We dug together, the 5 of us, taking turns, making space for roots to spread. When the hole was ready, Samuel lifted the tree carefully, lowered it into the earth. Everyone should add some dirt, he said, and make a wish. Mom always said planting things was like praying with your hands. He went first, scooped dirt with his hands, let it fall around the roots. I wish for us to always be together, no matter what. Matthew went next. I wish for this to always be our home, our safe place. Jackson's turn. I wish for Gramps to know how much we love him, because he saved us. Ruth was crying. She added her handful. I wish for Isabel to see this, to know her boys are safe and loved. Christopher cleared his throat. I wish for second chances, for all of us. Then it was my turn. I knelt down, touched the soil, the same ground that had once been a prison, now growing life. I wish for love that never dies, for family that never ends, for home that lasts forever. We finished planting together, patted the soil down, watered it thoroughly. The tree stood straight, strong, ready to grow, just like us. A car pulled up at 10 a.m. Agent Patrick Grant climbed out. He was smiling, in his hand a manila envelope. Mr. Armstrong, boys. Agent Grant. I shook his hand. This is unexpected. Good news shouldn't wait. He handed me the envelope. Ethan Dalton was sentenced yesterday, 30 years, no parole. The boys were silent, processing. That's it, Samuel finally asked. He's really gone. For a very long time, son. He'll be 70 when he gets out. If he gets out. Samuel nodded slowly. Good. Grant pulled out another document. And this is yours. I opened it. Read the first line. My vision blurred. Final adoption decree. Armstrong legal guardianship granted. It's official, Grant said. Samuel, Matthew, and Jackson are legally your sons now. Samuel Armstrong, Matthew Armstrong, Jackson Armstrong. Armstrong. Matthew's voice was small. We're really Armstrongs. You really are. Jackson launched himself at me, arms around my neck. We're really your family forever. Forever, buddy. It's official now. Samuel stood straighter. No more Dalton. No more Dalton. You're Armstrongs. All 3 of you. Grant stayed for coffee, told us the full story. How Ethan had tried to cut a deal. How the prosecutor had refused. How the jury had taken less than 2 hours to convict on all 7 counts. Justice was served, Grant said. The right way. Because of you, Mr. Armstrong. Because you didn't let those boys disappear. After he left the afternoon, stretched out lazy and perfect, the boys played soccer in the backyard. Their new dog, a golden retriever named Scout, chased after them. Their laughter carried on the breeze. I sat on the back porch, Christopher on one side, Ruth on the other. You did it, Christopher said quietly. You really built a family. I watched the boys, Samuel passing to Matthew, Matthew to Jackson, Jackson missing completely and laughing anyway, Scout barking and jumping. No, I said. They built me. I thought I was saving them, but they saved me. Ruth squeezed my hand. You saved each other. That's what family does. The sun set slowly, pink and gold across Boston's sky. We had dinner on the porch. Grilled chicken, salad, the boys eating like they hadn't eaten in days instead of hours. After dinner, Jackson crawled into my lap. Matthew leaned against my shoulder. Samuel sat on the step below his head, resting on my knee. "Tell us the story again," Jackson said. "About the night you found us. You've heard it a dozen times. Tell us anyway." So I did. I told them about driving to the warehouse, about the industrial lock, about breaking through the door and finding them in the dark. "And you knew right away," Matthew asked, "that we were yours." "I knew. The moment I saw you. You were mine, and I was yours." Samuel looked up at me. "Did you ever think you'd have a family like this?" "No. I thought I'd lost my chance. When your mother died, I thought family was over for me. But we came. But you came, and you gave me another chance. The best chance." They fell asleep like that, piled against me. 3 boys who'd survived hell and come out the other side. Christopher and Ruth went inside, gave me this moment. I sat there, 3 sleeping children in my arms, the weight of them solid and real. And I thought about you. Yes, you. Reading this. Listening to this. I built a $3.2 billion empire. I made deals that shaped industries. I had power and wealth and influence. But none of that, not one single dollar, mattered compared to these 3 boys sleeping against me right now. I spent 40 years chasing success, building bigger, reaching higher, believing that work was what mattered. That legacy meant buildings and bank accounts. I was wrong. Legacy is this. These 3 heartbeats against my chest. These 3 futures I get to protect. This family I almost lost and finally found. So here's what I'm telling you. Don't wait. Don't wait for tragedy to force your hand. Don't wait for a warehouse and 3 dying children to teach you what matters. Call the people you love. Visit the family you've neglected. Forgive the fights that feel too big to forgive. Because time is the only thing you can't earn back. And family, real family, the kind built on love and choice and showing up, that's the only wealth that matters. It took me 40 years to learn this lesson. 40 years and nearly losing everything. Don't let it take you that long. Don't let your lesson cost what mine did. I carried the boys inside one by one, tucked them into their beds, kissed each forehead, whispered that I loved them, that they were safe, that I'd be there in the morning. In Samuel's room I paused, looked out his window at Isabel's garden, the white roses glowing in the moonlight, the family tree we'd planted that morning, the place we'd built to remember and to heal. I walked to the mantel, to Isabel's picture, the one we'd hung in the center of everything. Her smile hadn't changed, still bright, still beautiful, still the daughter I'd failed and lost. "We did it, sweetheart," I whispered. "Your boys are safe, they're home, they're Armstrongs now, official and forever." I touched the frame, the glass cool under my fingers. "I'm sorry it took me so long. Sorry I didn't listen sooner. But I'm listening now. And I promise, I swear to you, I'll take care of them. Every day. For the rest of my life." The house was quiet, peaceful, full of sleeping children and second chances. I walked through the rooms one more time, checking locks, turning off lights, making sure everything was secure. This building, this warehouse that used to be a tomb. Now it was a home, a sanctuary, a place where love lived and grew and never died. I stood in the doorway of my own room, looked back at the hallway, at the 3 closed doors, at the family sleeping safe inside. 40 years I searched for success. 9 months ago I found it. Not in a boardroom, not in a bank account, but in 3 boys who called me Gramps, who trusted me to keep them safe, who gave me a reason to finally come home. The lesson took me 40 years to learn. Don't let yours take a lifetime. Choose love, choose family, choose home, while you still can. I'm Nick Armstrong. I built a $3.2 billion empire, but I almost lost the only thing that truly mattered: my family. Looking back at my story, I see a man who spent 40 years worshiping at the altar of success, while God was trying to teach me what real wealth looked like. I ignored my daughter's warnings. I chose boardrooms over bedrooms. I let pride blind me to the blessings right in front of me. Don't be like me. Don't wait for God to send you tragedy to wake you up. Don't need a warehouse full of dying children to teach you what you should already know: that the Lord gave us family not as an afterthought, but as our greatest calling. Here's what I learned. God doesn't measure success in dollars or deals. He measures it in the people we love, the lives we touch, and the legacy we leave in human hearts. I spent 4 decades building monuments to my ego while God was whispering, "Come home. Your family needs you." My lesson cost 40 years, 3 near deaths, and a daughter's life. Don't let yours cost that much. The Bible says we can gain the whole world and lose our soul. I almost did, but God in His mercy gave me a second chance. If you're thinking about that phone call you haven't made, that visit you keep postponing, that forgiveness you're withholding, this is your sign. Don't wait. Choose love. Choose family. Choose what matters while you still can. Because unlike my bank account, time doesn't earn interest. It only runs out. Thank you for journeying with me to the end. I'd love to hear how this story resonated with you. Please share your thoughts in the comments below. A quick note: this is a scripted story crafted for reflection and inspiration. If it's not quite your style, feel free to explore content that better fits what you're looking for.